Okay, hello. This is Elder Scrolls Online. I'm going to be talking about player interactions. Currently, I am in a player versus player deathmatch, which is a type of battleground that you can queue yourself and play with random people or friends. Currently, I'm playing with random people, and I'd like to talk a bit about the player versus player content, and then when I get back into the other base game, I'll show you some of the world content and how that differs a little bit. So this is a player versus player deathmatch. This is highly competitive and usually played with strangers. Death matches are interesting because they really are a testament to how well you built your character, meaning how well you put together your armor and your skills to make a what's called a viable build, quote unquote. There are different types of damage dealers and different types of healers and different types of tanks. So I am playing as a healer character in this bright pink armor. Generally, I wear my bright pink armor when I play Battlegrounds, so it's easier for people to find me if they're on my team. Does that mean that other players on other teams can find me easier? Maybe, but I like my pink armor. So, I'm a healer character, so I don't do a lot of damage at all. That makes it interesting in player versus player content because you don't necessarily need to be a healer. A lot of player versus player content is strictly damage dealers versus damage dealers. Especially this playstyle deathmatch does not give a lot of points as rewards for playing as a healer. So a lot of people don't do it because they don't get the skill points or rewards that would come with getting a lot of kills on a damage dealing character. So it's interesting how the game rewards generally people that do more damage. You can kind of see down over here, I don't have PSN name, I have character name, so hopefully that's good. But I placed second on my team. We did the worst though, but over on the right side you can see I have the medic, heroic healer, and then I got some assists. So generally in terms of points, you really want to have the most kills and the least amounts of deaths in deathmatch. So you can see this person did 729,000 damage. That's usually pretty high. Most people stay around 200 to 300. So that makes me feel like this person up on top that got the most medal score or points for this deathmatch has a very interesting and successful build of their character. So they probably have matching armor sets, they have all their skills in the right area, and all of these things. So now it's going to put me back into the base game, and I can talk a little bit more about how that's going to go. Loading screens take a while in Elder Scrolls Online. There's a lot of content that it provides, so generally can take a while depending on your internet connection. Okay, so it's put me back in the base game. I'm actually next to a world boss and a dolmen. These are both things that can be done by yourself, but are placed in the main world. As you can see over here, there's someone actually doing the dolmen, so there's two people. I'm actually going to jump in and help them. This is very common to do, especially with dolmen. Usually players will jump in and help each other. You can't do player versus player in the main world, so it encourages you to work together and jump in. As long as you do enough damage or have enough involvement in the dolmen, you will get a chest to drop. So even if I'm just over here healing these characters while they do most of the damage, I'll still also get that chest. So it encourages players to kind of work together in this main base game. It's interesting because dolmens are scattered in all of the areas. There's usually like 5 to 6, I want to say, in each area. They provide an opportunity for players to work together. And generally, like, I don't know who these people are, and I will probably never see them again after this. But at this point, I am motivated to help them because I want that chest job.
Me every time. I need defeat you only once.
I've found if I'm trying to complete an area and you have to like defeat the dolmens and you know, world bosses and things like that to, you know, complete the area. If I start one, usually people will come over and help, which is honestly really great because as my main character, she's a healer, does not do a lot of damage. So it takes me forever to do things like this if I'm by myself. Alright, and we've completed this dolmen. I did enough to where I also got a chest. So this is a reward for helping out these two characters, basically. And I got some good stuff, so that's awesome. Over here is a world boss. I don't know if they're also going to do the world boss. Looks like it. So I'm going to jump in and also help them with world boss. But this is generally how the world content goes. It's very different than the player versus player content. And generally, characters will have different builds that they have to do both the world content and player versus player content. I have one build for everything. She's just kind of a general healer. Super useful in dungeons, which are 4-person player content that's cooperative. So you're working to defeat bosses throughout a series of encounters, and that's called a dungeon. I probably won't be able to show that because those take a while, but they are cooperative play that generally fall under player versus everything else content rather than player versus player content. There's also another player versus player content in the middle of the world map, and I'll show you that in a bit, that is basically a world area, but it's all player versus player. So there's three different factions, and you're basically fighting over territory in each of those factions. It gets very competitive. I know a lot of my guildmates don't like to do, it's called Cyrodiil, it's like the main war PvP area. I know a lot of my guildmates don't like to do PvP in Cyrodiil because it's simply incredibly competitive. If you don't have a character that's built specifically for player versus player content, it's really hard to do anything in Cyrodiil. Thankfully, I do pretty okay. I'm built as a healer character that can take a lot of damage. The only bad thing about my character is I do absolutely no damage. So I feel really bad right now because I'm trying to help with this world boss, and I'm just basically keeping this person alive and giving them resources, and I can't really do much else. I enjoy that kind of content though. I really like being able to help people out and play a support class. I know most people play damage dealers, but I generally enjoy the support class role. It forces me to work with people in ways that I haven't before, and definitely in battleground situations where it's 4 teams, or 4 people on the team 3 times. You're generally trying to figure out, you know, what can I do to support these characters? What character is going to want to work with me? What person is doing enough damage but maybe needs some help with healing? So all of those things as a support character I have to figure out. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Okay, we almost defeated this world boss, and then, yep, there we go. World bosses, they drop stuff on them. So nothing too great, but that's okay. I just helped this person, and that's good. Okay, so I will show you a little bit of the map. Let me walk away so when it respawns I don't get killed. Let me show you a little bit of the map. So we just did this world boss over here. World bosses and the dolmens are content that respawns regularly, and players are encouraged to do since they drop good armor sets usually, and gold, things that you can sell, things like that. So you can see in this area alone there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that I've discovered. I think I've got all of them. And then there's also probably about 5 or 6 dolmens, but I haven't discovered all of them. So you can see that in the world, even though there are missions to do, you can definitely see that there's a lot of content that is encouraged for players to just kind of jump in and help each other. I know a lot of my guilds will do guild events where they'll go through and they'll complete all of the dolmens or all of the world bosses for a single area. Meridia's Maidens is my all-female guild. They do events constantly that are more specific to completion. So they'll go through and they'll do, all of the world bosses in an area or all of the dolmens in one area with the aim of getting everyone to complete it. Yeah, so that's very interesting. That was some general world content. Definitely very different than player versus player content, and definitely very different than Cyrodiil, which is an even more interesting player versus player content. I'm encouraged to work with people that I don't know in what's called random battlegrounds and random dungeons. So if I go to Activity Finder down here, if I do a random battleground, you can see that my daily bonus rewards is premium battleground supplies. So that's really good stuff that I can either deconstruct and use materials to build other things, or I can use the stuff that it gives me. But that's only if I queue up for a random battleground. So that's how the game encourages you to work with strangers that maybe you don't know. You can also do specific battlegrounds, like if you like the deathmatch, or if you like the flag games, which is basically like capture the flag, or if you like the point captures, you can do those as well. You just don't get the extra reward of the premium supplies. It's also the same for dungeons. Actually, a lot of times I will do random veteran dungeons, meaning that they're extra hard dungeons, for the premium Undaunted exploration supplies, since those are actually very good. So that's just one way that the game encourages you to play with strangers that you've never really met before, and help and support each other in doing things. I can also queue up for a specific dungeon. So the way I got my Earthgore helmet and shoulders, which are a very key part of my player build, are I had to do veteran Bloodroot Forge. This is notoriously one of the hardest dungeons to do, and I struggled a lot with it. But if I wanted to go do it again, I could queue up for it, and then anyone who has chosen random veteran dungeons may be put into my my instance in that dungeon to help me out. I very much enjoy doing this because I think it's a challenge. I've done most of the dungeons and I know most of the mechanics, so I'm very happy to jump on voice chat and explain to people who maybe haven't done the dungeon before or don't understand the mechanics what to do, how to do it. I feel very successful when I can support other characters in finishing what they need to do, or sharing with them any armor supplies that they need, things like that. So that's another way that you can interact with other players on this game. And then the Alliance War is Cyrodiil, so that is the player versus player content. We can see over here we have the three factions, so the Aldmeri Dominion, Ebonheart Pact, and the Daggerfall Covenant. Usually the most popular campaigns are the 30-day ones, but there are also ones that are shorter, in 7 days. But you can see those are usually empty. Player versus player content gets very intense in Cyrodiil, like I've said. So I know a lot of people that don't want to do that. It can be kind of fun though. Over here we have a quest marker. I'll just show you what it looks like to pick up a quest. This is more world content. Other people can do this quest with me, so if I wanted to group up with people, I can do this quest and share the quest, and anything that I do towards the quest will also benefit them towards the quest. So that's very nice. And it looks like we have to find someone. And you can see the quest markers up over there. Again, this content is just placed in the world. Although I can share the quest with other people, doesn't necessarily mean that other people have to be doing the quest for me to get help from them. So yeah, that's my commentary on Elder Scrolls Online and how players are encouraged to interact with each other. Thank you very much.